WCLN 1170 Radio and Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by J.W. Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We Should Know is on there. My name is J.W. Simmons. I'm your host. Always a pleasure being here each and every week and bring you information and hopefully a bit of education about what's going on in the community. Today, we're talking about a topic that's critically important. I got three people with me today, and I'll start with the fire chief. Fire chief here is Brian Royal. Brian, you've been on the show a number of times. Your volunteer fire department is Halls, which is just north of Clinton here. I want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Chief Anthony Davis, Clinton Police Department. Anthony, you've kind of come up through the ranks and landed at the top perch. You got a lot of weight on you when it comes to things happening and responsibilities, and your shoulders has got to be pretty big to carry that. So thank you for being with us.
Thanks for the invite, J.W.
And Erick Herring, paramedic. Erick, you've been through a little of it all from the very starting out with EMT, EMTD, up to paramedic levels. And you also do some crossover stuff, I think, with law enforcement as well. But,
yes,
but your focus area is in that medical response department.
Yes, sir. Kind of a jack of all trades, master of none.
Well, I want to kind of let everybody know, one of the reasons I ask you guys to come in and let's sit down and talk is that the 28th of October is National Recognition of Emergency Responders. And that was put in place by the United States Congress. And it's an important day, but I want to open this conversation. I believe personally every day should be recognizing what you do and what your associates and so forth do on a daily basis, whether it's Sheriff's Department, Highway Patrol, Police Department, whatever the law enforcement agency is. But I want to look at it, and in my first, I guess, place I'd like to go is what brought you to that awareness that this is something I might want to do. Knowing, obviously, when you went in, this is not a great salary generator. This is not something that is going to end you up with a house in the Keys or a yacht off the coast or anything, but you chose this community services job as something that you were going to give, and I'm going to go ahead and say give your life to. And I'm going to start with the police chief. Anthony, I'm going to leverage that to you. So maybe you can set them a good example on where to go.
All right. Well, I think we talked about this before is, I grew up on a farm at an early age, and my mom stayed at home, and, she taught me life lessons and that type of thing. And obviously, working on the farm, you work with a bunch of different people from different ethnic backgrounds and so forth. And I found out at an early age that I really had a servant's heart. I really wanted to help people. And I picked back and forth with the fire departments and stuff all the time, but I actually started my career out in fire and EMS for a couple of years before I transitioned, got a little bit smarter and transitioned over to the police department. Mm-hmm. But from an early age, for me, it was just God's call on my life to serve people.
And it's interesting, and I hear that a lot. And Brian, I'm going to kind of go to you as fire chief because I know a little bit about your background, and you and I have talked about that both on and off air. You grew up in a family in which your father, literally, you rode with him to the fire station, and you've told me about that. Is there something you remember that you thought, well, I've got to do this, or I'm persuaded to do this? A lot of people get it mixed up and think it's some kind of ego trip, but trust me, I know what you guys do. If there's any ego there, it gets flattened in about the first 48 hours. So I'm going to just go to you and give us your sense on that.
No, at a very young age, my father, he was a volunteer firefighter, and of course, when he's watching me and my mother might be at work and he has a fire call, it's either he can go and help his neighbors with the fire call, and he had to take me with me, and I would stay in the truck and I'd watch, and I'm like, man, this is pretty cool what they're doing. They're out there helping people. And firefighters were mainly in our area was all volunteers. So, I mean, they volunteered their time to come to help the neighbors. And then as I got older and started attending church and got into like a mission group and learning to like serve the Lord and stuff, I said, well, hey, this is a part that I can provide. I want to be a firefighter. In the back of my mind, I said, maybe I want to be like a police officer or paramedic, but just fire, just something that's always interested me. So, I mean, and that was something I could volunteer my time to do. And so that's why I wanted to serve my community, and that's just the role I took.
I think the idea of what you said, and one of my things is most folks, when they hear the word fire, they want to kind of stay away from it. So, but you actually got people in your profession, and years ago when I was working with training at the college, what amazed me is they would train to actually go into a fire, a house that was on fire, to go into that. And I always would step back and go, really? We're training people to do that? But that's part of what you do.
Yes, sir. I mean, I enjoy it. And I mean, it's just it's a good feeling knowing that I'm helping someone.
Erick, I'm going to segue to you. I know medical response, emergency response as it relates to medical issues has transitioned radically over the years, and I want us to get into that a little bit later. But I want to just kind of hear from you. Was there one thing that triggered your thought of, I kind of believe I want to end up in the medical thing, or was it like all the other doors was shut and that was the only thing that was open? I don't know.
No, I tell you, to be honest with you, really what got me into emergency services was my twin brother. Mm-hmm. Yeah, at 15, 16 years old, he wanted to join the fire department. I had no interest in it whatsoever. Mm-hmm. I hadn't even thought about the fire department mm-hmm. or volunteer rescue mm-hmm. or anything. He wanted to join the fire department, and so I thought, okay, I'll join with you. So we both got on the fire department, took a medical responder class at the fire department, and shortly after, we both got on volunteer rescue, and shortly after that, our dad joined. Took the EMT class, joined volunteer rescue. So all three of us pulled volunteer rescue for years. My brother eventually got out of it and really has nothing to do with emergency services today. But my dad and myself, we stayed in, or dad in volunteer rescue, and myself in volunteer rescue and fire. Mm-hmm. Dad finally retired, and I took the paramedic program when I was still just volunteering, and I thought, it's kind of crazy for me to go to school to take all of this this paramedic class and to really not use it. So that's when I started full time with the county.
Oh, okay.
I'd always wanted to do law enforcement, be in law enforcement. I had started law enforcement way back in the day when I was working private sector, and I couldn't finished class just because of job requirements and so forth. Couldn't finish the class, and so finally after my kids had kids come along, and I wouldn't take the time at that point to go through the class, but once they graduated high school and kind of got through with the ball games and going and doing everything for the kids, I thought, I've always wanted to do it. Right now it's time to do it. So I took BLET and got my BLET certification, but I enjoy working with the county. I think once I got to doing it, like I said, I had no intentions of anything, and I hadn't even thought about emergency services mm-hmm. until my brother kind of got me started in it. But once you get started in it, you see the rewards, or you feel the rewards in your heart of knowing that whatever you just did, whether it was helping someone put their house out, or saving someone's life by doing CPR on them, or whatever the case may be, just the feeling that it gives you inside, you just know that this is what I want to do. And it's kind of, I think a lot of people in emergency services, there's an old saying, once it's in your blood, it never gets out of your blood. Yeah. And I think that rings true to a lot of us.
I hear what each one of you are saying, and it's interesting because I've talked to a number of folks over the years, and there seems to be two key components, and one of them's passion, being passionate about what you do, but the other part of it is, which is a huge part, I think, from what I've heard from you guys today and listening to folks over time, is there's a part called compassion. You have compassion for that person out there that may not understand nothing about what you do, and then you show up at the scene and you have a purpose there. One of the things that we talked about a little bit off air that's changed, but I want to look at it from the sense of the time period. Anthony, when you got into it was a few years ago, things have changed radically, and part of that has been in the social media platforms. We got to go to break in about a minute, but I want to just start with that and we can come back from break with it. But is that something you see escalating, and is it a hindrance or is it an opportunity?
I think it's both. I think it's the way you take it. I think being a leader of a law enforcement agency is you got to look at the societal issues. We've got to be adaptive to change. We can't just do things how we've done them in the past and continue to do them day to day or month to month if they're not working. We've got to look at what's going on within society, and then whether it's for training or how we do business day to day, and look at those things and maybe coming around the table and sitting and talk about them. Sometimes we just need to listen and listen to what the community is saying. And then we can adapt to those changes and maybe move forward. But simply doing things the way we do them, 20, 30 years ago, some of that stuff may not work today. So we got to be adaptive.
One of the things I think that is kind of a connection between all three organizations that you guys work for, both medical, law enforcement, and fire, is there's this thread of what public expectation is. And what I'd like to do is to kind of get a sense from you is to how do you track that? How do you understand what public expectation is versus your ability, or in both of some of your cases here, supervisors and department chiefs, having the right resources in talent and people that'll step up and do it to fulfill the public expectation versus what reality is. And I'd like to kind of bring that back because we're fixing to go to break here in a second, but I'd like to kind of bring that back and on break kind of give you time to process that, because I think it's a critical part in today's world. Is we got different sets of community expectations, and if you got a city or even a territory in the county or a large county, different parts of that county may have complete different expectations. So I think if we could discuss that when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're going to be talking about what some of those public expectations is, how these guys reach that, and ensure that you get what you need. We'll be back in a moment.
105.7. 105.7. Tuning in to Christian 105.7 is tuning in to a space of hope, encouragement, answers, and love with the magic of radio or the convenience of the internet. Christian 105.7 is focused on sharing the universal truth and light of Christ with a local touch that creates that special feeling of community. More than just another broadcast station, we're your neighbors. Christian 105.7. What faith sounds like.
If you run a business, you need sales. To get sales, you need customers. To get customers, you need exposure. Let our team of experts craft and produce the perfect video ad to reach your intended audience while making the most of your advertising dollars. Call 1-800-706-6538 or visit starcom.net to contact our Star Communications production team and get your business moving to the next level.
Eastern North Carolina is a beautiful place where we gladly choose to call home, and we strive to provide the best communications services. STAR is committed to improving communications to all our service areas because we want to improve the communities where we not only work, but also live. STAR Communications. We are neighbors serving neighbors.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We Should Know is on the air. J.W. Simmons here, your host. The 28th of October is National First Responder Recognition Day, and that it was distinguished in Congress in 2017. It's something that we all ought to be doing. We should have been doing it years ago. But with us today is the Chief of the Halls Fire Department, Brian Royal. The Clinton Police Department Police Chief, Anthony Davis, and Erick, who's a supervisor, paramedic with the Sampson County Emergency Medical Response. So when we went to break, we were talking about this idea of how has the community response, how has the community been satisfied, their expectations based on what your capabilities are. And I think it's different with each agency. And in this segment, I'd like to kind of give you an opportunity to address folks and say, here's what realistically you can expect. And the other part of that is not to try to explain what you can't do, but maybe explain to them not only what you have done, but what you see being continued. And I know technology is going to take a huge part of that. I mean, I was reminded 3 or 4 years ago, we started talking about drones doing flyovers before you even got to the scene. Somebody reminded me the other day, and they said, JW said, we're already doing that. I thought, God, you've got into that now? Wow, that's cool. So I'll start with you in the middle again there, Anthony. Since you took the middle seat, I'm going to ping there and then ping here and then ping here. So go right ahead.
Something we always try to teach the officer or for anybody that calls the office is, what is your expectation of living in your neighborhood? For some, it may be trash. For some, it may be drug problem. For some, it may be crime. It just depends on what kind of issues you're having. So when you call to the office, obviously you're going to have expectations of getting those problems fixed. Sometimes those problems don't fall on the head of law enforcement, but we've taught our staff that, figure out the problem, and then we're going to refer you to whatever agency within the city that can take care of that issue for you. Instead of trying to pawn you off on another phone number or telling you to hold or something like that, we're actually going to forward you to the person you need to actually speak to. When it comes to expectation, we just want everyone in the community to have a realistic expectation of what police can do. We've seen over time the mental health, animal control. Unfortunately now all that falls on law enforcement. And obviously you've seen some movements over the past several years that talk about sending those somewhere else. It's day to day. We're stuck with the mental health issue and the homeless and animal control. And unfortunately, these are not law enforcement problems. These are not law enforcement issues. These are societal problems where society should be coming together, with the police, and let's try to find some resolution to these issues instead of just, calling 911 and having police response. Mm-hmm. Let's find a resolution to it and find take care of it.
Do you think it's hard to get folks to understand what the role is for law enforcement today? Because I know you meet on the state level with police chiefs all over the state, and you're part of that group that, and it's a small group, by the way, but it's very important, the conversation. And when I see, like the police chief in Raleigh, I see some of the things, some of the problems they're having. I don't want to say she's having problems, but the city itself with shootings and those kinds of things, and it proliferates society. What do you do, and how do you adjust your trajectory on your movement? I mean, obviously, I'm talking that everybody knows you got things, you have guidelines you got to follow, but what do you say to folks? Is it important that you're in the community a lot, that your officers are in the community? How far can you go in that process of community engagement before you have to explain to people there's times you just got to place handcuffs on somebody?
Yeah. First thing for me is training, the proper training for every officer. You can't have an expectation of application without proper training at all aspects of law enforcement. Second to that is education. I don't want to talk about how other places police their communities. I want the citizens of Clinton to understand how we police Clinton. So we have all the educational events where we can explain, why this officer is doing what he's doing. If he's out on 24 doing radar or, stopping vehicles. And then down at our educational events we're doing in the communities, in the parks and the schools. All that plays in the education part of explaining to people how we police in Clinton.
Brian, we'll switch to fire service now. Having had a long view of this, both as a child and now being the chief with a fire department, you and your department to some degree are the community.
Yes.
And I think that's important, but still you have, for example, accidents, traffic accidents, it's, spread between all three of you. But when you have those responses, do you get immediate feedback? Is it on social media? Do you get a phone call? How do you get the feedback on that response?
Well, on the fire side, we're not out in the public every day or like patrolling like the police officers. So, when someone calls, we respond. But we get feedback as how we present ourselves at a scene. So if we're at a motor vehicle accident and we're not professional or trying to be rude to a motorist directing traffic, I mean, then we get negative feedback. But we want to know the public to know that we're here to serve the community. I mean, we're more than just the fire department. I mean, we teach pub ed. We're in the schools, teaching children at young ages about fire prevention. And currently this week is Fire Prevention Week, and we're gearing in on cooking fires. That is the most leading cause of a house fire is cooking. So that's right now, that's what we're promoting right now in schools and stuff, is teaching the public. So we're out doing pub ed and trying to be more proactive and stuff to the community. But then if the community needs something, if it's just someone needs a smoke detector in their house, they call us, and we provide that service. So they don't have to call us just for a fire. Mm-hmm. If they think that they might just smell smoke in their house, I mean, we'll come out. We don't charge to come out, but we're there to just serve the community. So I hope we never have to come to your house for a fire, but I mean, we're here to maybe come and just look around and say, look, yeah, this is not safe. I mean, just maybe do a walkthrough in your home.
And I think you have kind of somewhat of an open door kind of policy. If somebody's got a issue, they kind of know how to get up with you or somebody with your department and that kind of thing. And I think that's important for all of you, but particularly with somebody that lives right there in the community and in a rural area. Sometimes the fire department may get there quicker than anybody else.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, in a rural area, everybody kind of knows your neighbors. So they know that this person might be on the fire department, this person's a member of the fire department. They see my fire vehicle in my yard. So matter of fact, this past week, I had a neighbor run to my house and said, this lady has failed. So I got in my car and went to her house next door and helped her get up. So I mean, just people knowing that there's firefighters in the community, knows someone to call to help. And I've also told the people in my community, I mean, if you come back from the doctor and you don't feel like you can get out the car and EMS is busy and they can't always just assist you get back in their house, I mean, call someone in the fire department. We'll come, we'll help you get back in your home. If you need a wheelchair ramp, hey, we'll take a few guys, we'll come up, we'll get the funds together and we'll build you a wheelchair ramp. We're here, more than firefighting, we're here to maybe serve our community.
That's commendable. And Eric, I go back to you with paramedic issues. There is a lot of ambulatory people out there that oftentimes needs help of that nature. But the way the county's set up and with the limited number of people that you have, you pretty much are just concentrating and have to concentrate on those critical emergency response calls.
We do. We run 7 paramedic level ambulances across the county. We run right at a little over 11,000 calls annually. So our trucks stay busy, really busy. Unfortunately, there have been times when some of those lower acuity level calls, we have had to hold them and wait for other trucks to clear up, to keep from tying our last truck up on just a lift assist that Brian may be talking about, when, we'll try and keep that truck available in case a heart attack comes out or chest pain or traumatic injury, a motor vehicle accident or something of that nature. But in speaking to the public and their perception of us, I think that the public holds us in emergency services to a higher standard, and as they should, but likewise, I think I can say that all of us and all of our agencies, our employees, we're human beings as well. We're going to have that off day. Unfortunately, it's going to happen, but the vast majority of us, we're here to serve the public and help them out in whatever the situation is, but we are human. Our citizens, they expect and deserve the same quality of care and standards of firefighting, law enforcement, EMS, as the citizens of Wake County or Charlotte or anywhere, and they deserve it.
And when we come back from this break, I want to talk a bit about that standard of care, that expectation, and how that's built over the years. Anthony, I can recall when one of the first basic law enforcement classes literally was 168 hours, and we ran that through to college. that is so far beyond what the expectation is now. It's just kind of like, what just happened? Same thing with fire service, same thing with the paramedics in the county. So I think, folks, it would be great for folks to just kind of process what we're talking about today and say, now, why do I need to understand this? And I think they would get a better picture of whether the response time is not as fast as they thought it should be, or should it be faster, and what the corrective measures are. So as we go to break and we come back, folks, we're going to be talking a bit with you guys about that, again, back to that expectation, the training you have now versus then, so folks can get a picture of what the demand is, not only on you, but each person in your department, just to maintain the training. As opposed to historical records. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're talking about things that affect your life each and every day. Hopefully you don't need to call these folks, but when you do, they are there. We'll be back here in a moment.
Providing fewer commutes, more backyard offices, and crystal clear meetings. Providing less, you froze up. And more presence in your presentations. Providing a better internet experience. Providing possible.
You're out for an evening on the town. Finally a chance to relax and forget that you left your front door completely unlocked. Fortunately, you just installed a security system from Star Communications. With just your cell phone, you can check on your house, lock it down, light it up, and get back to relaxing.
You forgot to put Buster in his crate.
Unfortunately, we can't help with that. Security and automation from Star Communications. Call today to find out more.
Most aging adults want to stay in their homes as long as possible. And as your loved ones get older, you want to support them, even when you can't be there. Star is proud to offer Star Alert. This new system is now mobile and has GPS compatibility, so your loved ones can live their lives and you can have peace of mind, knowing they can get the help they need with just the simple push of a button. The new Star Alert also offers automatic fall detection, so help will be alerted even if they can't press the button. Call and ask about Star Alert today.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. J.W. Simmons here. The name of the show is We Should Know. We're talking to some folks in the emergency response business. The 28th of October is deemed Emergency Responder Recognition Month, basically recognizing and kind of distinguishing the professions each one of you guys are in, and that's fire service with Brian Royal, Chief of the Fire Department at Halls, the Chief of Police in Clinton, Anthony Davis, and of course Erick Herring. Erick, you've been a paramedic for some time. You do a lot of crossover stuff as well. But the thing we were talking about, guys, when we went to break, we were talking about this, the way the public kind of digest what you do, how they not only receive that, but do they really totally understand. And Brian, I want to kind of circle over to you, because I know as a volunteer agency, and of course I'm familiar with a lot of folks that work with you out there, there's a huge number of folks in the community that are well aware of the hours and the dedication that y'all put in. And as a volunteer person, it causes me to think sometime that, and I'm just wondering, I just asked a question, do you get folks to come to you and say, hey, we appreciate what you do?
We do get people to come and say they appreciate us. But as far as the hours, yes, we're totally off volunteer fire department. And in Sampson County, there's approximately 650 volunteer firefighters. Mm-hmm. And that is huge for Sampson County, because you don't find many people this day that just wants to volunteer their time. So we're very fortunate to have volunteers. But when the fire service first started, yes, we were fighting fire. And we were taking classes, it was not that long of hours and stuff, but now the fire service has grown. So we're doing more of a rescue, where we're extricating people from vehicles, or water rescue, doing specialty classes. So the hours and stuff has got to be more and more. And with someone working a 40-hour work week, 60-hour work week, whatever, and then trying to train and volunteer their time is taking all they can. So Yes, we're volunteers, but it takes a lot of someone's time and dedication to do that.
Well, you're expected to have those qualifications as well as you get out there, because some folks may say, well, are they mandated or not? But liability alone, if you don't have what at least the minimum requirements are, that kind of puts you guys in jeopardy.
Yes, we're regulated by the Department of Insurance. They regulate hours that we have to have each year, each month. We have to have firefighter training, and we have to stay up to date on that. I mean, can you imagine if we sent someone to fight fire and they got injured or something would happen, lose their life or anything? I mean, then they don't have the proper training, and then we're liable. So we do have to maintain the training for our insurance rating, also to make sure our members stay safe.
And the insurance rating usually gets everybody's attention, because that means that every household, every business, that rating determines how much the cost of their insurance is.
That's right. The more we train, the more we train as a group, as our firefighters, and with our neighboring fire departments, that is passed on to the people in our community on their insurance.
Anthony, when you started in law enforcement, do you remember what the basic training hours were?
I want to say around 460, 400, somewhere around there.
And now they're well over 600, just basic.
640, 640 hours.
And there's a fitness requirement with that too.
There is, and we're actually going through a current rewrite, the state is, with the ability curriculum. We'll see the new rollout come out in July of 2024, and we're going to 856 hours.
That's basic training, folks. I want people to kind of listen to that, and we'll talk about in a minute the in-service stuff, but that's basic training. Erick, I know paramedics, and when you look back at one time, if you were CPR, if you could drive the ambulance, you could go pick people up. Now, I mean, it's escalated to such a range that it's the next thing that have you guys being able to do surgery directly. So where are you at now?
It's I sit back and I think about the things that we did back in the day when we first started paramedic compared to the things that we do today. We're in the process of trying to get everything worked out, the logistics of putting whole blood on our trucks. Mm-hmm. That's something that was not even thought of or heard of. Just got an email this week from OEMS coming out with a lot of standards that lower certification EMTs and AEMTs, their skill sets, that changing skill sets, letting EMTs and AEMTs do more. Mm-hmm. Things that have always been a paramedic skill set, now this AEMT or EMT is going to eventually be able to do it, which is even more training. And I think that the training and standards, volunteer fire, volunteer rescue, we're losing volunteers, especially on the rescue side. Part of it is training the standards. People just cannot keep up with it, and do it as a hobby, so to speak, volunteer. People in this day and time, they're working their full-time job. A lot of people working a part-time job, and some's working 2 or 3 part-time jobs, So volunteering at a volunteer fire department or a volunteer rescue, it's essentially a part-time job that you don't get paid for. You're having to do all this training of a night, at your volunteer station versus, a paid organization, where our paid EMS in the county or a paid fire department somewhere, they get to do it while they're on duty, getting paid. That volunteer is, taken away from his family time tonight, his or her family time tonight, and going to their volunteer station and taking training. So, just the training and standards, just the way it is just increased in the number of hours and so forth over the years. And this is not going to decrease any at all. It's just going to keep increasing year after year after year.
Yeah, and you alluded to OEMS, which is Office of Emergency Medical Services.
Correct.
In Raleigh, which kind of handles the mandates. Now, your state agency is the North Carolina Standards Commission, which a lot of folks don't understand, Anthony. There's 2 separate entities that operate. You got one for police, that's the Standards Commission, then there's a Sheriff's Commission. very similar in the training, but yet they're two separate dominant organizations or folks that say this is what you're going to be required to do. Is that correct?
That's correct. They send those trainings down every year for what our mandated training is going to be, and it runs between 24 to 26 hours. And then personally for our agency, ours runs about 100 hours a year.
And that's just in service. That's just mandated.
Just mandated.
That's not what you feel like, well, you know, and you alluded to this a while ago, I'll go ahead and touch on it now, this idea of mental health is that if your folks go through crisis intervention team training or something, that's in addition to that. And I think that's going to be something that's going to be probably in basic, but at the same time, that's a refresher kind of program.
It is, and I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier. It's whatever the needs are at the agency, whatever the needs you see in the community. Is basically how we try to fill our training out throughout the year. So if we're having an issue in mental health, then I want to make sure my officers are ready to face issues in mental health. So we send all the officers through crisis intervention training. It's a 40-hour class. It's an entire week. They have to go and sit through that 5-day class.
How does that impact your budget when we're putting a budget together and you know you officers has got to have so much training, which is over and above the time they're on the street? Is that significant?
It's definitely something you got to plan for. We're getting into budget season now for next budget cycle. So I'm already planning ahead now for next year's budget cycle. So I got to think a year ahead and say, hey, how much training we got coming up next year? How much overtime do I got to plan for next year? Because any time these guys and gals are coming in for in-service training, they're getting paid overtime. And this is built into their schedules. So it all has to be built into your budgetary.
So you got a huge chunk of your budget that you just look at a line item, and it could be training, and we're talking in possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Could be, absolutely.
Plus another thing that your department has got, I guess you still got, you got a dog over there too.
We got 3 dogs.
It's okay to call him a dog. I don't know whether they had changed the name now. You're supposed to use another term.
We do. We have 2 narcotic dogs that do tracking, and we also have a bomb dog that does tracking also.
But that's big, determined, especially absolutely. With schools and other things. That's an asset.
It is, and when you create these programs, you don't want to see them fizzle out. You want to see them carry on. So whenever you think about even creating these programs, are they sustainable? Can we sustain these programs for years to come? Obviously, with the inflationary costs and stuff we're seeing, and budgets are increasingly getting tightened here and there. So it's something to think about going forward. Absolutely. Is that
particular asset do you have? Is it also available to, say, for example, folks in the county, if something comes up and the sheriff's department needs that kind of thing, you could support them with that? Absolutely. We have mutual aid agreements with all our surrounding counties, agencies. I've sent emails, so absolutely, they can call anytime, and that resource is available to them. We're going to go to break in about a minute, Brian, but I want to kind of move to you on the obvious next question. I mean, we're just sitting here talking about budget and paid paramedics and police, and you're sitting here with folks that's volunteering their time. When we come back from break, I want to kind of segue to you, and let's discuss this idea of how long and is it sustainable for volunteers? Is it even, should we even expect it to be sustainable 5 years, 10 years down the road in the future for folks to keep saying, well, yeah, we'll just keep volunteering our time and we're going to go through and do all this training. And it's, as you pointed out, Erick, be away from my family and do everything that needs to be done. Are you getting a sense for that? And I know this is something that's been discussed in public many times.
Yes, it's getting harder and harder to find people to join a fire department to volunteer time.
Let me run to break now, and when we come back, I want you to kind of elaborate on that a bit, because in this segment, I'd like to, get into that area of how do you find the talent, and that's going to be addressed to all of you. How did you find the talent to at least meet the minimum mandates? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. We're talking about emergency response. We're talking about recognizing your emergency responders in your community each and every day, but particularly on the 28th of October. Stay tuned.
Just because something may work doesn't mean it's right for your business. Let Star Communications' knowledgeable consultants help you customize a hosted voice system that's right for you. Our dedicated experts work with you to understand your business needs and guide you at every step, from choosing and installing services to ongoing maintenance and support. Contact STAR today.
For the ultimate Wi-Fi experience, you need whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications. Star's whole home Wi-Fi provides ultimate coverage, ultimate performance, and ultimate power all the time. Star's whole home Wi-Fi systems feature the latest Wi-Fi 6 technology and are equipped with unrivaled bandwidth and 4 times more simultaneous connections. So you can connect tons of devices throughout your home with no lag and no downtime. Plus, with 24/7 support and remote troubleshooting, you can rest assured that Star is always there to help you should any issues arise. Star's whole home Wi-Fi also comes with the Command IQ mobile app, putting you in control of your home network and making it easy to set up and connect devices, run network speed tests, pause Wi-Fi, and set parental controls all from the palm of your hand. It's the ultimate Wi-Fi experience. Contact Star today to get started.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. J.W. Simmons here. The name of the show is We Should Know. We're coming to you on Star Communications Channel 16, simulcast on WCLN Radio. Also on Tuesday, Thursday, a replay of the program. You can see it at 7 p.m. on Star Communications TV, Channel 16. We're talking about not only the importance of emergency responders, but October 28th is a day set aside nationally to recognize what you guys do. And we're talking with Anthony Davis, who is the Chief of Police in the City of Clinton, Brian Royal, who's the Fire Chief at Halls Fire Department, and Erick, who's a paramedic supervisor here in the county. Erick, I'm sure you got another title. I'm probably using the wrong one, but I think everybody knows you and what you do. So yeah. It's important for us to continue our conversation this last segment. I don't want us to miss anything, but I want to try to get into this idea. And Brian, you and I were talking about that of the 3 sitting here today, folks that we're talking to, you manage a department that totally depends on volunteers and totally depends on people in the community stepping up. Do you have people that says, yeah, I want to get on your department, and then 6 months or a year or something down the road, all of a sudden they say, listen, they got opening in Fayetteville or Cary or Raleigh, and I'm going to make $75,000 a year?
Well, we don't have people come knocking down the door and trying to join the fire department. We have to kind of get out and kind of go to some schools and high schools and try to recruit young and, see someone on the street. If we're out at a call and see a bystander sitting there watching or something, we might say, hey, you ever thought about joining the fire department? So we have to try to recruit heavy. Mm-hmm. I do remember 25 years ago when I graduated high school, and I said, I want to be a professional firefighter. I want to be a paid firefighter. Yeah. So I went to Fire Academy, got my training, and at that time, yes, I could go to Wilmington, Raleigh, a larger city and get a job, but it was hard to get a job. But now you can search the website and you can get a firefighter job anywhere because there's a great demand for it.
Oh, absolutely.
People don't really want to do that kind of work because you're risking your life. You're gone away from home a lot. So just trying to keep the volunteers that we got, is very important. So, right now, there's no way with the budget that I have at our fire department that we can pay our light bill, pay our fuel bill, and then try to pay a firefighter. So unless something majorly changed, there's no way currently that I can go out and just hire a firefighter. So that's why we have to get into schools and try to recruit. Now, one thing the college has done that's kind of helped us out is they've come into the high schools and they've offered high school students that's in 11th grade and 12th grade that you can take the firefighter certification at Sampson Community College, and you'll get your high school credit, and then when you graduate high school, you actually be graduating with your fire certification.
Absolutely.
So that's a plus for us as a volunteer department because they can come and join us, get training, learn the experience, and then once they graduate high school, then they might be able to go to a larger city or Clinton, anywhere, and do it as a career.
Because it's the same standards.
It's the same standards.
Same standards, same training requirements, those kind of things.
That's right. So, we provide the same service as a paid fire department in Clinton, in Raleigh, Wilmington, but we're all held to the same standard. The only difference is we're very fortunate to have people to volunteer their time to do it.
Absolutely. Anthony, do you actually look at the talent pool you've got? Do you wait to see what shows up in the basic course? Do you have folks that maybe see some of your guys on the street and say, what is it, what do you have to do to get involved with it? How does that come about? And do you have this kind of, assets out there? I know some departments are sending people out to just, this as well as I do. They're looking, they're going out in the larger community looking people.
I think it's a culmination of all three of what you said, JW. We do have a recruitment team that go out and like you said about the different events and stuff you can go to, job fairs. We have a team that goes out and sits at those job fairs. But Sampson Community College is really big for us here in the community. That's the majority of where our officers come from. So we're able to recruit them right out of the academy directly into the door. And we usually get the cream of the crop, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I do try to stay local. I've seen over my years that if we recruit them local and they live here, they're more apt to stay here instead of using it as a stepping stone to go to a bigger agency. So if they have an investment in Clinton and what we're doing, they're more likely to stay. We have shifted our mindset a little bit from recruitment to retention because up to a couple of weeks ago, I was fully staffed. We've been fully staffed a little over a year. So we shifted that mindset to retainment. How can we retain our people? Mm-hmm. Instead of, obviously trying to recruit. So, you're not going to be able to keep up with salaries. So we got to be innovative in our ideas. Equipment. Do you have good equipment? Technology is driving law enforcement. Are you ahead in technology? Programs at your agency. Do you offer career development, training? We're really big on career development training. We have a career development program. So they have somewhere they can see where we're going to be in 5 years from now. They can look at a document and say, hey, I'm going to be here in 5 years. So I think it's a culmination of all those ideas and just being innovative in ideas. And what can you show somebody in 5 years is how you're going to be developed if you're retaining somebody.
And do you see that getting more and more weighty to try to do as you look down the road? Because as you mentioned on one of our breaks, the basic training itself is going to go up radically. It
is, and it's also, go back to budget. If I got a 5-year officer that's trained in 5 years in his career development plan, he's got a lot of training under his belt. So if he leaves and goes to another agency, and I'm having to hire a brand new officer.
That's a huge investment, for what you're saying.
That is a huge investment in all that training we've gave that officer. So we're right back at square one training a new officer coming in the door. So we do have to shift our mindset to retaining our people.
Erick, I know y'all go through a lot of research looking for people and those kinds of things, and it seems like it was just a short time ago, but it's been some years back. The quote rescue squad you referred to them as was the emergency medical. They did rescue. It was all combined. Then, as Brian just pointed out, it's separated now. The fire departments is doing the rescue, and you focus on emergency medical response. Is that talent pool there? Do you feel like it's, as the chief just pointed out, that you can find it locally, or are you reaching out outside the county?
It's there somewhat. Any realm of emergency services, whether it's fire, law enforcement, or EMS, you can go anywhere, just about any day, and get a job with any agency. I mean, we've been fortunate over the years that we've been able to retain a lot of our personnel. We are right now, we're short staffed and have been for last few months, but we have been fortunate. But just like Chief Davis, we've had to come up with innovative ways to to keep people or entice people to want to come. Sampson County, we can't compete with the Wake counties, the larger cities and counties that are paying a lot more. We can't compete in salary. So we're having to try to compete in other ways. Technology, our protocols, being real progressive in our protocols. Some of the things we're doing in our protocols in Sampson County that we are allowing all of our paramedics to do. For example, in Wake County, maybe they've got specialized paramedics can do it. We've trained all of our medics to do it and allowing all of them to do, these types of things. So, we have to come up with innovative ways to get people to want to come here and work, and stay and work. Just like Chief Davis said, if we can find some homegrown people, they're more apt to stay with us. But every agency, we're struggling, just like every other agency, to hire good quality paramedics. And, a lot of times I look at it as well as I want, if I can hire attitude, I can probably teach you. If I can hire the right attitude.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, there's some out there that just because they have a certification, don't mean they're the right one for the job.
That's a good point right there. Right attitude. We need to underline that, you think? Because I think that applies to every one of you guys. I mean, you're looking at somebody that, as Brian, you pointed it out very clearly. You got to have kind of a passion for this, and it is in your situation, neighbor helping neighbor. I mean, I'm literally talking about next door. It could be,
That's right. You got to have someone that's got the heart for it and desire, and I mean, I always go back to like trying to do like a mission group. I mean, someone that's you want to serve the Lord, you want to serve your community, so you got to have that passion for it. Key critical point that you think you're going to be facing in the next 5 years. Just one thing. I'll start. And you got a best few seconds here.
Real quick, I will just say the shortage of personnel. That's one of our main things.
Recruitment is going to be an ongoing issue.
Keeping people interested to join the fire department.
Wow. That's across the board.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So the campaign to get the qualified people that's willing to go through the training that you pointed out for police departments or law enforcement agencies is just going to ratchet up. Probably the same thing with fire service and emergency medical.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
So it's not so much just the financial asset. It's that mindset of passion. And you could call it faith-based, whatever, but the passion is I really want to help somebody. I want to be there. But you guys have got to walk the walk, right? I mean, you got to be the example of that.
You got to have.
And we got to depend on one another.
Exactly.
Because we can't be sufficient without one another.
JW, I will say one thing real quick. I know you're saying this Emergency Appreciation Day or whatever. I think I can speak for all of us when the vast majority of our people and personnel, they are not in this for you to tell us thank you.
Absolutely.
That's nice, but that's not why they're in.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to do it whether you get a thank you or not. Yep. But it is important, and as I close the show today, it is important that if everybody listening would remember that we're fortunate to have not only what you do, but all those folks that work with you do what you do. If not, it would be a community of chaos. So I thank you very much, and I'm sure everybody else does, and I appreciate you being here today. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you again on We Should Know right here. You can find us each and every week at Tuesday at 2:30, and may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.